try to just fire up one person in the room. Just like when we did the iPad
Yeah.
things.
Stand by.
Try to get one.
4, 3.
Technology security. Learn more right after this.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Welcome to Community Watch. Greg.
Dog.
Hey.
Check
Well-
you first. I gotta check you first. You know, we doing a security show.
I'm a little
Inside.
wired. I am wired,
okay,
but,
yeah.
but not secretly wired.
That could be dangerous.
Yeah. Well, you're the technology guy.
I love technology,
Yeah.
but there's different
Do you,
parts of
do you have the
technology.
gene?
The what?
The gene that allows you to instantly understand all technology?
No.
Because
no.
my students have that.
I love technology, but I think when you say technology is so broad, there's certain aspects of technology. You know, a lot of us are consumers of technology. But then there's that layer behind, like how do this app do what it does, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not that person. I don't really care about how it happens, I just want it to happen.
Yeah.
I'm one of those early adopters. I like to adopt it early, but so certain parts of technology I like.
Well, compared to
To
me-
you, I will agree. Compared to you, that's
Well, our guests today are from the IT department at Georgia Highlands,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been trying to get them on the show for years.
oh wow.
That's how busy they are.
I can
That's
believe
how
that.
busy they are. And I don't know what
They have great titles.
They finally just gave in. Yeah, we're going to have the Chief Technology Officer and the Chief Information Security Officer.
Doesn't
with
just
us.
sound really important?
Well, it is. It is
I'm
important.
just saying that's like cool
Yeah,
titles. You
yeah.
know? We should be chief or something.
Chief.
Yeah,
Liz,
chief.
well, you should be chief.
That's I know.
Oh,
Okay.
so it's fine.
Anyway,
Well, we're going to have a discussion about all things technology and technology security today's show. So please stay with us. We'll be back with our guests right after this.
I'm transferring to the University of West Georgia.
Columbia University,
Kennesaw State.
UGA.
Loyola University in Chicago,
Grambling State.
Shorter University.
I'm going to Greensboro College, and we all got our start at Georgia Highlands.
No matter where your educational journey takes you, you can get your start at Georgia Highlands College. Georgia Highlands College. Enroll, engage, excel.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and we're very happy to have with us today Rob Latrello and Richard Davis of Georgia Highlands College IT, two chiefs. Rob, you are Chief Technology Officer, and Richard, you are Chief Information Security Officer.
Sir.
what does that mean?
Just kind of set the direction and help guide the college in regards to technology and what we use and how we use it. That's what the chief technology part does.
And the CISO position basically just protects the, to use the classic definition, protects the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of all of our assets, basically. Keep the bad guys out, keep our information safe, basically.
Well, I mean, I think that's the main thing that was on my mind when I was asking y'all to be on the show, is to talk about the security aspect and how challenging it is. I have no awareness of what you have to deal with to keep the college stuff secure, but you know, we hear about breaches and
Leaks and
in banks and businesses and all kinds of ways. So it must be a constant concern.
It is. It is. It seems like every day you hear about a new breach. So
And you basically, you have to, it sounds horrible, but you have to stay paranoid. I mean, you really, from protecting the college and assets, you stay paranoid. You err on the side of,
absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this, Rob. So, the college have a chief technology officer or chief security officer, information security officer. So, what about the everyday American who uses a smartphone? Because I know there potential for that to leak information is there.
Mm-hmm.
How at risk are we, not as a college, but as individuals, how at risk are we when we're using all this technology? As far as our personal information or our data.
you're one click away. It's not too bad, is it?
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Where you're one click away, and that's what phishing scams are out there to get you, to entice you to click that link, and then ask you the next question. And it's amazing how they've done even studies. If you put a social security number on a form that you're filling out, people will fill it out. You know, that kind of stuff. I mean, sometimes you just need common sense, and they know that a percentage of people are just not going to apply common sense when they're using their phones and their computers. So that's all it takes is 1%, or 0.5%, and they've got more.
So is that the way that individuals tend to get into trouble, by opening something they shouldn't open? Or, I mean, is that the primary way that happens?
Lately, especially as of this year, I would say it is, and that's why I guess it comes down to the point where you can have millions of dollars worth of security infrastructure and equipment and all this fancy software that monitors everything, but if someone on the inside is enticed by a phishing campaign or a spear phishing campaign, and they willingly give up their credentials or give away their personal information, all the security appliances and devices and software in the world is not going to help you with that. So that's why absolutely the most important thing is end user awareness training, more than anything else, just to train and educate the public that may not be familiar with these things on a daily basis. That's paramount.
Now, so you just said something, end user education.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I am guilty of this, and I know everybody, for the most part, is guilty of this. You go to an app, it asks for all this permission, and it asks you to agree to the user, and you've seen them, and it even says download it. Well, if I need to, it's so long, I need to download the user end agreement, and you just click yes, because you want to use this app, or you want this new mobile app, or whatever. But we really don't know what we're agreeing to, for the most part, and so as you say, you can have all the software in the world, but if I'm giving you permission to access all of this, which we could be doing without even knowing it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Number 39 said you had to wash their car.
you never saw it.
Yeah, I admit I've not read the iTunes terms and conditions all the way through. But that's certainly a concern. So a lot of it, like Rob said, is some common sense things, and another part of it is the amount of information people give away on social media makes it, in many cases, very easy for a bad guy to, potentially break in and get access to some of your accounts. But we could talk for 2 or 3 hours on password security easily. And
but why do you go ahead?
Well, I was going to say, let's talk a little bit about it.
Is it true? But the most common password is like 00 whatever.
Oh, 1 2 3 4 5 6
Or
and password.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the amount of people that use the same password every single site they go to, if you're doing that, please don't. Please don't.
See, I do that. I'm going to tell you. Because I've tried different passwords, and I always forget which password.
There's a solution for that.
And then I want to write it down, or then I want to save it in the app. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm saving all my passwords in the app, is that any safer? So help me. Because I do. I got one password for everything.
all right, so basically what you need is some sort of password manager, and it doesn't even have to be one that costs any money. You can use something like KeePass, which is completely free and available for any operating system, Windows, Linux, OS X, whatever you're using. And like me, for example, I don't even know what my Netflix password is right now. I couldn't tell you. I'd have to go to my password manager and look it up. But what I do know is it's not the same as my Hulu password. It's not the same as my bank password. It's not the same as any other password I have. If one particular place gets compromised that I have an account in, like LinkedIn when that happened a while back, then I'm not as concerned because I've only used that credential in that one place. So that number one is one of the most important things. Don't reuse passwords anywhere. Literally one password per website, please. And use a password manager. And then the password manager itself, generally you've got two ways to protect it. You can use a key itself, a key file, where you have to point to that particular key file. So you have to have that file somewhere present, and then a long passphrase to protect it. Something, 30, 40 characters, something as long as you can think of to remember.
Sentence.
A sentence, a combination of random characters that you love from different TV shows that aren't related. Something you can remember that's sufficiently long. The longer the better. That's by far the most important thing. But the other thing is to understand that in general, and Rob will certainly agree with this, passwords are dead. Passwords by themselves are just terrible. It's broken. Computing has become to the point now where you've got so much compute power that, given enough time, you can brute force and crack just about any password, which is why multi-factor authentication is so important. And we can talk a little bit about what that is.
Go ahead.
If you want. Yeah. So, all right. So in general, just to simplify it, a password is something you know, or a passphrase is something you know. There are two other factors to consider, which is something you have, such as a token. You've probably seen like RSA Secure ID, those little tokens that generate a random number every 60 seconds. So that's something you have. And then the last is something you are, which is like a fingerprint or a retinal scan or an iris scan or something like that. So if you combine any combination of those things, then you've got two-factor or multi-factor authentication. So what's great is that a lot of the big companies like Google and PayPal and Apple and various other companies have now enabled that. So what you can do is you can have a password which is unique to that site only, which is the first thing like we discussed. And secondly, you can have a code that is texted to you on your cell phone that would be valid for, say, 60 seconds to 300 seconds, to 5 minutes. And that code, be it 4, 6 digits, whatever it is, you would have to enter that code during that login process. So I go to PayPal, I type in my username, I type in my password, then it says, okay, what's the code we just texted you? So now the bad guy not only has to have a password that you only have used on this one website, but they also have to have possession of your cell phone or some way to intercept that message.
Okay.
And then, you could say, well, they can guess it. Well, they have, 1 in 10 to the 6 chances to guess it in 60 seconds, so it's probably not going to happen, So that will certainly help. So I think that's absolutely where we need to be. That's the future, because passwords alone are just, they're dead. So.
And yet, I'm just thinking of the passwords I have to get anywhere in the college system. I don't know that I can function beyond. I've got. I must have 10 different passwords just to maneuver around our computers. It's going to get harder than that.
That's why you just almost got to use a password manager. And then some critics of that would say, well, now you've put all your eggs in one basket, and if that gets compromised, then you're out everything. And that is true. That's a risk. You have to somehow, when you have that secure password database, which is not a Word document sitting on your desktop with the passwords listed, but some sort of encrypted database, you've got to protect that and make sure that you have a sufficiently long passphrase that you don't write down somewhere. You've got to have that here or locked in a safe.
Well, I have a friend, and they have a book with all their passwords in it. So one day they were looking, they had to log in, so they took out their book, and they had all their, they had the AT&T, the password, Verizon, they have it listed and the password. I said, so what happens if you lose your book? Even if I wasn't a thief, you might inspire me to be one because you just listed, and they got the password and the ID and it's like.
Well, the reason you don't have a book is because you only have one password.
You're right, but it's like, we know security is so important. But it just seems like, it's so, not a hassle, but it can be very complicated and time consuming.
And what you just said is a key point. It is a hassle, And security, good security, isn't fun. It's like, yeah, let's do better security. It's not like that. It is an extra step, and it is. I mean, and that's why you see the industry is so slow to move. You got the tech companies that are moving, and the people that are slowly steering the ship over to using multi-factor. But yeah, it is an extra step, and it is painful. You'll hear people all day long. It's like, oh, I gotta get my cell phone out and wait for this tech. Okay, 6, 4, 5, 3, 1. You have to tack that on the end. It's like, but you know what? It's an extra step, and you're safe because of it.
So even if you have, well, number one, we know you should have multiple passwords for each site. So even if you do nothing else, you at least should do that, right?
That's step one.
But even though that's dead, you at least should still do that.
Yep.
Okay.
And then turn on multi-factor where available.
So how do you do that? How do you turn on multi?
Well,
oh, okay.
Well, we have a few seconds left, but this sounds like a big answer today. So I'm thinking, I don't know if we have time for this. Maybe we ought to go ahead and take our break. Let's take our break. We'll get the answer after this. Stay with us.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Community Watch. We're in the middle of a conversation with Rob Latrello and Richard Davis about internet security and passwords, and I forgot your question. But
how do you turn on multi-user or multi-identification, whatever you're saying?
Multi-factor authentication? It varies just between whether it's Google or PayPal or what service you're turning it in on.
But Google, because I use a Droid for Google.
So with Google, for example, if you go to your Google account settings to manage it, like if you're logged into Gmail and you in the top right corner there's a little icon you can press and you'll see account. Yeah. There'll be a security section that you can go to. And on there, it'll say something like turn on two-factor authentication, I believe is what they use. And you can set it up a number of different ways. You can either use a Google Authenticator app that you would download that would generate the random codes that you would use, or you can have a text message, or actually, I have one with me, you can now use a security token that you can purchase. You can get one of these on Amazon for $17. And this is kind of a new thing to where instead of getting a code texted, if I go to a computer and try to log into my Google account and Google doesn't recognize that I've logged into that computer before, there's no possible way to authenticate without physically putting that key in a USB port and using that device. So it's just another thing that they've recently started supporting. PayPal is probably going to be next to support it, and several other people. So that's just another method of security. But
that's one more thing I have to keep up with too, though, right?
It is. Certainly, even if you didn't use something like a physical key, everyone's got a cell phone with them, right? And just about everyone can text. So just getting that code texted to you, that will make a world of difference.
Well, I have had that. Now, you got to jump in here, Doc. But I know when I try to reset my password on a couple of sites, it'll tell you, enter the code, and then you have to enter your cell phone number, and it'll send you a code, right? And you have to enter that code. So I have experienced that with some of the sites I've used.
Yeah. So this is great. And another really important thing is when you go to a website and you're told to enter security questions. If you have the opportunity to write your own security question, then do so and write something that's truly unique that only you would know. The worst questions of all are questions that are matters of public record questions are terrible. In what city was I born and what's my mother's maiden name? Those are terrible. You can find that out
on Facebook.
Yeah, you can find that out in social media or just by Googling in a few seconds. You can find the answers to those. So if you don't have a choice and those are the only questions they give you, then lie. Where were you born?
I have learned it. I do that.
You've learned a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
just make up something. Use that as another password.
I did learn that they do not answer the question honestly. Put something crazy like, what city was you born? Ice cream.
Absolutely.
Totally irrelevant.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, that's right. And put that. There's places in KeePass or password managers where you can put those extra fields too, and document what you use for your password reset questions. Because you could have a super secure password, and then if you can answer a security question and sometimes they're the weakest link. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
Now, y'all are obviously not the typical example of folks in the world as far as the procedure for being safe with this information. So, I mean, the college is just an example, but obviously, if I'm not unusual in that respect, a lot of us are not doing this. Or a lot of it I didn't even know we were supposed to be doing or need to do. So is this something that is this why so many places are, is this why you're paranoid? I mean,
Yes, this is an ever-changing, I mean, and we wouldn't be talking about this exact subject less than 2 months, maybe 2 years ago, 18 months ago, thereabouts. There was a big push that people were pushing toward multi-factor.
Yeah.
And it was becoming more and more in vogue in all the large players as far as implementation. But yeah, it's something that is an end user training thing. And really, I should call your mother, tell her to use multi-factor type thing. Yeah, spread the word.
Yeah.
It needs to happen.
Yeah.
It does.
Now, go ahead.
No.
Well, I'm just thinking with the whole Snowden, the whole thing with the whole information. How safe is our information, even when we're taking all the necessary precautions? How safe really is our information, especially with modern, like when we're texting, emails, and I mean, clearly our government and people have some capacity, even with our security measures. How secure is our information?
It's a good question. There's no simple answer to that. The first thing to understand is that email is not inherently a secure method of communication, and people treat it that way. Email is completely insecure. It's wide open, right? So unless you apply some layer of encryption to protect that data in transit, then it's clear text. And people, all the time they email, things that they wouldn't necessarily want to get out there, and that's not good. But that's just one example. How secure is the information? It depends on who your information is stored with and how their security practices are. But so yeah, it's people like to say that you either already have been compromised or you will be. I mean, just about everyone at some point is going to experience some sort of data breach. And what's important is that they have some sort of incident response plan in place to deal with it, and that they're prepared for it, in other words. Because you can't sit back and say, we're completely secure, it's never going to happen to us. We've got all the security in the world, we've got all this fancy equipment. No, it doesn't matter how secure you think you are. You're only one person away, right? Or one mistake, because the bad guys only have to be right once. We have to be right every time. So,
yeah, Home Depot, for instance, when they lost all their credit cards, they did so via the HVAC system, correct? I mean,
Target.
Target was the HVAC system. I'm sorry, they run together. There's so many of them.
Yeah, there are.
So
it's constant.
But yes, but the last thing that you're thinking about hardening, making it the most secure system there is the contractor coming in and working on the air conditioning. But that's exactly how they got in to actually breach the credit card data.
Wow.
So that's
Real
crazy.
Contract.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So there's malware called Black POS is what it's called. That's just one example. There's several other pieces of malware that can infect POS systems, which is kind of a big thing right now. So you're seeing that malware, hit people like Home Depot and Target and all these other various retailers. Everyone, Dairy Queen's in the news. It's just every day. It seems like there's someone else. Staples, I think, just recently.
Now, I know I'm paranoid, but you can confirm this or not. I keep my cameras and microphones covered on my computers when I don't use them, because I've heard that they can be accessed remotely from other places on yourself, on your computer, on your computer.
Very good job.
And I've heard that there's reports that some companies do have the capacity to remotely activate those kind of things. So I just keep mine covered.
Yeah.
And is that true?
Yeah, it is. There was a way to reprogram the firmware, which is the low-level software that controls the camera itself, that would display a little green light or something on some of their older MacBook Pros. And there was a particular exploit where people could flash that firmware and turn off the green light so that the camera would be on, but you wouldn't get any kind of indication it was on. Supposedly that's just affected older MacBook Pro models, but but yeah, I mean, people are people are certainly paranoid after that. I think it was some high schooler or some college student or something was supposedly arrested for spying on beauty pageant model or something like that. It was in the news or whatever, for doing that exact same thing, which is of course extremely illegal. But
So do y'all buy stuff online?
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Is that okay to do?
Yeah, is it
Oh,
safe?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, it's real, Rob, is it?
I mean, if you, yes, be careful. But yes, there are things you need to know and look for and understand. I mean, you want to make sure you're using, TLS, HTTPS, connections. I mean, you want to make sure that you're doing it correctly. You don't want to just randomly go to some, widgets.com site or whatever, and I'm going to get me a widget today, and you're going to download it and you put your credit card number in clear text. You just gave away your credit card number.
So if I'm using HTTPS, which is S is a secure site,
Yeah.
is it, or how secure are they compared to just the HTTP site?
This is where people like us make extra money.
Oh, it's
I guess,
completely
just because,
secure.
yeah, it's not. It doesn't mean. Unfortunately, just because you're doing HTTPS doesn't necessarily mean you're secure.
Okay.
But it's certainly it gets you there. It gets you a long way there, right?
Yes.
So,
But yes,
yeah,
a minimum.
There are certainly some ways around that. There's ways to do man in the middle attacks. There's ways to redirect you via phishing to a site that's not legit, and maybe it would look legit, but and maybe it would have a certificate, and be HTTPS and green and happy. But it's you just kind of have to pay attention. But to answer your question, do I shop online? Yeah, I actually. For trusted big sites, something like Amazon or something what that I shop at, not to plug Amazon, but I would be more worried about giving my credit card to a waitress and have her disappearing for 10 minutes in the back while she's running my credit card, and she magically comes back 10 minutes later and gets me to sign it. I'd be more worried about her swiping the card information or he or she, not to say all waitresses. But anyway, I would be more worried about that than I would, shopping on Amazon or something like that. So, you take a risk with everything, right? Nothing is totally secure. That's the first thing to realize.
You're trying to get it down to an acceptable level of risk.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about managing risk. That's at the end of the day. So,
You've got to be studying constantly to learn all of the things that you should and should not be doing.
It changes every single day.
it really does.
Every single day, you're constantly watching the news. You're following security analysts. You're on Twitter. You're doing all of those things to stay abreast. So
that's a big part of what y'all do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Back in those rooms.
So really, we just need to have friends who really know.
Yeah,
Who
it
keep
helps.
keep us educated about what we should stop doing or what we need to start. Like this multi-factor
Multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
multi-factor
It's
authentication.
going to take me a while to figure out what that is. But
You still using VHS tapes, all right?
a few.
They're secure, right?
They're secure. Well, we need to take another break. When we come back, we'll finish up with the security discussion. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Seven 7,000 high school students drop out every school day. That's a line of desks more than 4 miles long. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step.
Welcome back to Community Watch. We've been talking with Richard Davis and Rob Latrello, two chiefs from IT, and now that we're all very scared.
Well, I'm secure.
Are you secure?
Multi-factor authentication.
All right. And you're going to explain that to me?
Yes.
Okay. I hope y'all can come back, really, because we need to talk about social media and some other stuff, too.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for being with us. We will see you next time on Community Watch. also give you an opportunity to give your email address in case somebody's interested in the organization.
Okay. If you are interested in the Poet organization, you can reach me at what's her name? That's WHATSHANAME @live.com. And we're calling all poets out for September 30th.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you for being with us this week. We'll see you next time on Community Watch. All of our shows to some degree, but especially this one, you're the man in charge.
No, but it is. It's one of those. You know, Juneteenth is one of those celebrations that we really don't celebrate. And to me, Juneteenth represent really the good and the bad of America, meaning that on 4th of July, we'll celebrate Independence Day as a nation. But we fail to realize that in 1774, a lot of us citizens now were not free then. You know, slavery was still in full effect in 1774. And so it's always been, you know, a bittersweet day for me. You know, how do I feel about my country? How does my country feel about me? And the fact that most people don't even know about Juneteenth speaks about the growth that we still have to accomplish, that we still have a ways to go, because until we really fully know and appreciate Juneteenth as a nation, I think we're still somewhat in denial. So yeah, this is one of those